my name's Clyde Burton, and I am the owner of Ben's Heating and Air Conditioning. We're located here in our offices in Oregon City, Oregon, which is part of the Portland suburbs. Ben is my dad. I am the second generation of this business. My dad started in the heating business back in the early 60s. He worked for a small company. It was just him and the owner all through, it was about 1989. And he decided, I can do this just as well. So he gave his 2-week notice and started Ben's Heating and Air Conditioning January 1st of 1990. I came along in 1993 is when he hired me. At that time, there was one other person doing service work and another helper doing like gas piping. So I kind of approached my dad because I was in a really low part of my life. I was unemployed. I had a wife and 2 little kids, and I needed a job. And so I came to Dad and said, "Hey, I got some issues and problems in my life, and I need a job, and I'll try really hard." So that first summer, basically, we didn't do air conditioning at all. We were just a heating service company. I spent pretty much that first summer under houses digging out dirt, and that was my summer job. I went from there and learned the business side of just service work. We did gas piping and working on equipment. From there, we added another employee about a year later, and then for the first 2 or 3 years I worked for Dad, I was just in the service side, learning equipment and doing service work. Having somebody that had 30 plus years of experience was great. My dad has a great memory. He was one of those guys that if he looked at something, he would remember everything about it, the job, where it was located, the type of furnace. So when I was out on a service call, back then we had old brick phones that, I'd say, "Hey Dad, I'm working on this Holley wall heater and he says, "Okay, so there's a gray wire coming down here, take the gray wire off, take the yellow," and he just knew that kind of stuff. So he was a great teacher. About 2 or 3 years after that, it was in the later 90s that he decided, okay, he's going to bring me into the office. At that time, we had 3 other employees also, so I started doing the dispatching. About 96, I think we got our air conditioning license. So for my training, I had a friend in the business. He sent me to another company for 2 weeks and go learn. So I went for 2 weeks with another guy, and I learned air conditioning. So that's kind of how we learned in the 90s. We had a small office. It was located in an office complex. There was 2 offices there. We ran a small service company. That was it. We started looking at, okay, what's our future entailing? How are we going to get bigger? So we decided that maybe we should install furnaces. At that time, we would, if we were looking at condemning a furnace, we would ask another company. We had good relations through a couple other companies in the area. Well, hey, we got a cracked heat exchanger. Why don't you go out and put the furnace in? So I thought, well, we've employed 2 other companies, and I've seen their kids go to college. It's like, maybe I could do that. And so it's like, okay, well, let's start selling furnaces and installing them. So that was another aspect, is like, okay, well, I know nothing about it. Oh, we know somebody over there. Let's go. So I spent an afternoon in a shop learning how to bend sheet metal. So it was in 99, I put my first furnace in. Didn't have a clue what I was doing, but we did it. That's kind of how my business models have grown since, in the beginning, not knowing anything. It's like, okay, I want to do this. How do I do it? I just go out and try it and do it. So at that time, our business model, with 3 or 4 technicians, we were doing, $200,000-$300,000 a year in service and everything, and life was good, and things were doing really well. And in about the year 2000, me and my dad sat down and decided to have a talk about what the future is on our company. And he thought, because of where he was at, he wanted to sell the company to me, and that way we had a 10-year plan. So that way he could kind of transition out of the business, and 10 years it would be mine. So we put a value of the company. Okay, the value he came up with was I make X amount of dollars every year as a salary. He says, for the next 10 years, you're going to pay me this amount of money. I'm going, oh, okay. and you're going to pay all the taxes, and you're going to pay this, and I want 4 trucks. And I'm going, okay. I mean, because when I looked at it, I mean, this was like, okay, 7 years ago, I had zero, nothing. And now this guy's going to offer me a business. And it's like, okay, maybe I can do this. Sounded simple. So I agreed, and off we went. The biggest challenges were, in the beginning, it was like the responsibility. So realizing that you have to have enough money in the account to pay all the bills. You have payroll every 2 weeks. You have to realize that all the vendors get paid at the 10th of the month. So you have all this anxiety building up to make enough money to pay that bill on the 10th. And then you have the payroll taxes on the 15th. And then it starts over again, and then payroll. And it would be a continual, every month, the anxiety and the stress of, do I have enough money in the bank to pay? And I would remember going home and telling my wife the same, every month. It's like, okay, next week's the 10th, and it's like, I don't know if there's going to be enough money, or it's the 15th. And when I first started realizing that I'm responsible for other people's income, that, they're working for me just so, it's not because they like me that well. I mean, they might like me, and that's but they need to make money to feed their family. So they have needs, and I'm providing a means to meet their needs. So that responsibility is huge for me. I took it really personal, and so through the hard times, I mean, it was just stress all the time. And that's when it's like, okay, so if I put an extra furnace in on a Saturday, I'll get an extra amount of money so I can pay this bill. And so it was just terrible stress. Growing a company was a easy, challenging, hard, the most troubling thing I've ever done in my life. But there's a lot of reward, because as an owner, you get to work as many hours as you want. So nobody tells you have to show up at a certain time. You don't have to quit at a certain time. If you want to work Saturday, by golly, you can work all day Saturday. So it's great. So, I mean, if you want to put in 60 or 70 or 80 hours a week, nobody's going to tell you no. And so back at that time, it was like, so if I want to make more money, I just have to work more hours. I would go out and I would sell a job and I would put the furnace in. And I would sell a job and I would put the furnace in. And that was okay, and that was good. And I thought, well, maybe I should hire somebody to put the furnace in. So we continued to grow, and we had a bookkeeper, and I dispatched all the employees. I answered the phones, and, the first year we started putting furnaces in, and we grew the business, and every year we got up to like 500,000, and then we hit that 700,000 and 800,000, and then the recession hit. The recession went several years through, and it was a struggle just to make things end at the end of the year. I mean, it was just hard. I had to cut my employees down. At one time, it was me, a bookkeeper, and a technician. There was just 3 of us left through the whole recession. The only thing I knew is I'm not going to give up. I'm going to persevere. I'm going to get through this. I mean, we got a great company name. Everybody knows us, kind of thing. So I'm not going to quit. In the recession, it was just terrible stress with added stress, because It was just the financials were, I am a technician by trade. I am a fixer. I am not a certified business owner. I'm not an accountant. I don't know numbers. I'm good at math, but knowing how do you charge to do a particular job correctly to make an amount of money so you can pay overhead. What is overhead? What is gross profit? What is net profit? What are all these terminologies the accountant always says? It's like, I don't know, but I know how to work hard. And so, through the recession, that was just devastating because it kept going south. I mean, it just was not working. It came to the point where I was paying my dad off, and it was to that time we were getting there, and I had no means to do, I couldn't do it, so I felt defeated. I had this plan, what was working in 2000, 10 years later was not working. So I didn't adapt. I didn't know how. All I knew was how to work harder. It was in 2011, I was talking to my wife and I said, I don't know what I can't. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm tired. I am, I was pretty much done. I didn't know what to do. I always have been into taking classes or trying to train. The distributors have a class, so I'll go to that class. There was a class that talked to owners about running your business, and there was a gentleman by Barry Barnett that was holding this class, and so I thought, okay, I'm going to go. And it was through one of the local distributors, and it was, this company called BDR, and he sat there, and all day long he talked to me. I mean, there was 50 guys in the room, and he was sharing my story. I am this like wall one guy that I can't climb over this wall. And it was like, yep, that's me. I mean, to the T. And at that point in my life, it was like, I don't know what to do, but this guy seems like he has an answer to my problem, but he wants lots of money. Well, I don't have any money to give him, so it's like, what do I do? So I go home and I'm talking to my wife, and it's like, and she goes, I don't know. And I says, I don't either, but I'm tired of doing what I'm doing. The definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. I mean, I've been doing that for a long enough time. I don't know what else to do. So I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I signed up for a profit coach and a financial coach. I needed, both sides of my business. I needed to know how to develop the financial side of my business and how to learn from somebody else that's done it before. That first year, they said, okay, there's a profit launch going on. You got to sign up and you got to go to it. It's going to create you a business plan. So I went to the class, and he talked about my story, about how I am exactly where I'm supposed to be because I'm stubborn and I am working myself to death and I am hitting the wall one. And he had some ideas. He said that if you want to get over this wall one and do what's, to change, you have to follow certain things. I thought to myself, I'm either going to do it or I'm not. It was to that point. So the decision to do it was, on one hand, it was like a no-brainer because I was just giving up. And on the other hand, it was hard because I knew that at that time, I felt like I am not going to be a business owner. I'm going to be more of the manager, so some of the power issues involved in that was hard because, I had to give up the total secrecy of running my business. Whether it was failing or not, it was my business. I mean, it was, my name, so it was like allowing somebody else in to help me. I had no history of nothing. I knew nothing. I just, kind of knew, I lost lots of money. I couldn't do this. I fudged some numbers, and I came back from there with a plan for next year to implement. The transition was good. I mean, it was comfortable. It was something that how they presented it, it was, okay, I like that, and it was never like, well, you have to do this and this and this. It's like, these are some ideas, and if you want to implement them, great. So what do you think? Is it something that you want to do? And I would say, well, okay, I like this and this. I don't think I'm ready for that yet. Well, okay, let's do that. And then you revisit it later. So the whole process, and then having the financial start and change, and then that first report. I can remember that first monthly report. It was like, wow. I mean, what an eye-opener. And then every month after that to see change and progression, and having a financial statement that fast was incredible. I can remember doing all the sales myself. And then with BDR, we decided, okay, I'm going to hire a salesperson, a home comfort specialist. I got to turn that over to somebody else. They're going to control the income of my company. That doesn't feel very good, to rely on somebody else. But that's part of the process to learn, how do you get over wall one? Oh, you have to hire a home comfort specialist. You can't do it all. So implementing those plans during those times at Profit Launch is like, so this is my goal. This is how I'm going to get there. This is who's responsible. This is the date I want it to happen. So then you could review those, and when they're done, you get to check it off, and it's like, I don't have to worry about that anymore. I can look at what am I going to do next year, or, So it's through the process that we've grown by adding and implementing things. The struggle I had before really BDR, the financial side, was really understanding financials. The struggle I had was, okay, I had a perception of, if I'm going to put a furnace in, it's going to be X amount of dollars, because maybe this company A had a bid for this amount and company C had a bid for this amount. So you have it in your mind, well, it should be, X amount of dollars. Not knowing or having a clue really what your expenses are, what your overhead is, how to make a profit, what is a profit, what is a fair profit. Understanding that, you don't know what to charge. Your employees see charging as, okay, I'm paid X amount of dollars in a wage, so if I just charge a little bit more than that, we'll probably make some money. They don't understand the total expenses of running a business. How many dollars does it cost every day to open up for business? There's a huge expense there. So understanding what to charge is the biggest thing. It's always a percentage. If you buy it for X amount of dollars, you should sell it for this amount. So that percentage was, what is that? I don't know what that percentage is until you understand financials and what your overhead is and what your labor per man day is, and all these factors. That's what BDR helped me to design, is the plan on what to charge correctly to stay in business. I can run now my company very streamlined, and I can make a high net profit. But by doing that, that means my risk value goes up, because it's based on what I do, and I don't want it to be based on what I do. So after taking the class, I realized if I want to lower that risk value, I have to add more responsibilities for other people in the company. So at about February, I said, we got to change. And so I am promoting you into this management position. You are going to be responsible for the whole installation side. And that's what I told my son, Tim. I have 3 service technicians. I picked my senior service technician. I said, Alan, I'm making you a manager. Well, there's only 3 of us. I don't care. You're the manager. You're going to manage all 3 of you. Your responsibilities are the service department. I go to Janine, which is our office person. I said, Janine, you are now the office manager. You are going to manage everything about the office. She does an excellent job with our finances and our bookkeeping and answering the phones and scheduling things. You're going to be in charge. Okay. So then it's like, so I have 15 employees right now. I went from managing 15 to 3. You know how more effective you can manage 3 people versus 15? You know, where I'm at today is extremely exciting because I just look at the future. How can I implement something and where are we going to go? I control more of what's going to happen instead of it controlling me. And that's the freedom that you get that I have received. That's it, because of implementing things that I've learned. Going to Profit Launch and understanding my financials. Putting a plan together. How am I going to achieve a 25% growth? Being profitable. So there's a simple plan. If you take what has worked and you put it down here and you put this plan next to my plan and follow the plan and do it, then you can see, oh wow, this worked. Oh, this worked. So then you get to feed on the past success, and that helps dictate your future. At the end of the Profit Launch series, we always get to write a check to ourselves. What do you want? What's your short-term goals? What's your long-term goals? I remember in the beginning, it was just to be able to be financially secure. I wanted to finalize the transition between me and my dad. That was a huge thing for me. That was, as a son, I don't want to fail. I don't want to have my dad think, oh, blah, 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 So it was important for me to be a man and finish that. And it took a couple years to actually, it wasn't until, like 2013 that we finally sat down and signed off. I mean, he was no longer a 10% or whatever it was, owner of Ben's Heating and Air Conditioning. We signed the papers and it was 100% mine. What a feeling it was. It was like, what an accomplishment. I mean, this is a 10-year plan that didn't work, that went to 13, but we finished it, and it was like, okay, there's a lot of growth in that. So we have, doubled the size of our company. And along with that, we are doing better financially. I know what my net profit will be. Last year we shoot for a 10% net profit. We're on the same goal this year. So understanding the little things that make the big difference has helped a lot. My key items when I go to Profit Launch have changed over the 6 years. This is my 7th year. My key items today are similar to what they've always been. I mean, bottom line is, how much money do I want to make? And how do I get there? This year I'm taking my 3rd extra person to Profit Launch. When I first started, it was me. I went to Profit Launch for the first 2 or 3 years and developed my plan. Then I decided to bring Tim in. My plan then involved him. That first year that he was with me, oh wow, what a difference it made, because it allowed somebody else in on my plan. It wasn't just my plan, it was our plan. Last year we brought Janine in, our bookkeeper, so she had a say. So it was 3 of us doing the same plan. So when I came back with the plan, 3 of us knew what the plan was, just not me. Wouldn't it be great if, 5 years from now, there's 10 of us at Profit Launch, 10 people doing the same plan? Do you think we can get something done? I do.
When I started being able to attend the BDR sessions, I realized that I do have an important role in the company and that I want to do everything I can for this company to succeed. Not only everyone that works here, but the clients that we provide service to. BDR helps us be able to be the most efficient and the best installers, the best service technicians, the best home comfort specialists. It sets us aside from everyone else in our market because we have those standards that, our standards are way up here because of BDR.
To have office managers or your team members there to participate in the BDR sessions, make them, help them make them feel that they're have an important role in the company and get them more engaged. And I think it's a great motivation tool as well to make sure that things are implemented that we talked about the previous year, and then even try to revisit some of the things that we the topics that we have talked about improving or even find a new direction if needed to fix what's not working.
It's kind of exciting because I look at the future of my company in the hands of other people, and I just get to be the facilitator. I get to be the guy kind of behind the scenes in a sense. A lot of good people have suggested that, my role, and as a business owner, your role is 6 months from now and planning 3 years from now. So I get to sit down and I am looking at what are we going to do next year?
My dream is to be an owner, operator of Ben's Heating and Air Conditioning, and to be able to have the company be in a position where my dad can retire and be happy and healthy and still be able to look on the company and be proud of the success of the company and the continued direction that it is going.
2 years ago, I looked at where I wanted to be. I wanted to do some traveling. I want to take my wife and do some vacationing. So on my dream big, I thought, I'm going to dream big, but I'm not going to be that big a dreamer. So I put on there, by January 1st of 2018, I wanted to buy a new motorhome, a new RV, and a nice one. So I wrote myself this check and I had it in my office. And 3 months ago, me and my wife bought a brand new RV. And it was about the same amount that I wrote the check for. That it was funny because I didn't really put it together until after we bought the RV and brought it home because it was kind of earlier than what we expected. But then like a month later, I realized that's what I wanted. That was on my dream check. So I got to look at my dream check, and I have this great picture of this check that I wrote myself like 2 years ago. And then behind us is this big RV, and we're doing it. We're actually doing what we dreamed of because we put a plan together and we implemented the plan. And that's way awesome. Today we're at, approximately 15 employees. Where are those employees at in the company? We have myself, and then we have Tim, and we have Janine, and these other managers' positions. How do we fill in our organizational chart? Where are we going to be in 5 more years from now? So what's exciting now is it's like you have an example, and it's just plug and play. You just put the people into place, and you give them an expectation. You know what the end results are going to be. Our growth since joining BDR has been great. We started, like I said, in 2011. Since 2012 to date, we have grown 175% in revenue, which has been great. We have climbed over wall 1, and we are scratching on wall 2 right now. That's exciting.